ठीक है, ओके।
Conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Caru News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Downstairs, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan and Organ Donation India Foundation. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic and today's topic, because today we are going to have the thought leadership series. Crisis moments create opportunity. Problems and crises ignite our greatest creativity and thought leadership, as it forces us to focus on things outside the norm. Thought leadership is fundamental in business today and consists primarily of finding and sharing great information in a way that attracts and retains. Thought leadership is when a leader's thoughts are being used by leaders to lead others. Thought leadership is influencing a narrative by understanding what needs to be done. Thought leadership is the expression of ideas that demonstrate you have expertise in a particular field, area, or topic. A thought leader can be recognized as an authority in a specific field and whose expertise is sought and often rewarded. That can be an expert, a historical figure, or a wise person with worldly impact. Many strive to become a thought leader in their respective fields. It takes dedication, patience, strategy, and education. In this series, we will be asking straight questions and we expect a straight answer from our thought leader. And today our thought leader is Professor Dr. Alok Prakash Mittal. Professor Dr. Alok Prakash Mittal has done his BE honors in 1978 from Gorakhpur. He has done ME from University of Roorkee in 1980. PhD in Power Electronics from IIT Delhi in 1991. He worked as Dean from 2003 to 2016. He worked as member of NBA Expert Committee for accreditation of about 80 institutes. He worked as member of Expert Committee for the Department of Technical Education, Government of Haryana, for allotting the courses of computer science to different technical institutions. He worked as member of Expert Committee for University Grants Commission. He was General Chair, IEEE, India International Conference on Power Electronics 2010. He is senior member, IEEE, USA. He is Fellow Institute of Engineers, Fellow IETE. He is life member, ISTE. He is life member, System Society of India. He was member secretary, AICTE, from 2016 to 2019. Now he is director of NSUT West Campus. He has more than 65 articles published in journals and has over 60 conferences, presentations. And today's topic is technical education in India. Welcome our today's thought leader, Professor Dr. Alok Prakash Mittal, on our show. Professor Dr. Alok Prakash Mittal, as you know, today's topic is technical education in India, and one cannot be better than you because your whole life is dedicated for the technical education, as even as the member secretary of AICTE, which governs the entire technical education in India. Now, in this program, we ask straight questions and I expect straight answers from you. You can take your time, no problem, because we have sufficient time and we have to cover all aspects of the technical education. So my first question to you is, how do you define technical education? No, you are on mute. Please unmute. Please unmute. Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. So Of course, as you have told, I have been with technical education throughout my life. I started doing PhD in IIT. After the PhD, I had been in technical education in different institutions, RECs, which are now NITs, and later on in NSIT. Then I had been in as member secretary of AICTE, the policy making body of the technical education. So technical education, as most of the people know, is basically governing all the technical fields. It is not only engineering, medical, architecture, management, all the fields comes under technical education. So education in any of the field of engineering, medical, architecture, and management, they are governed by the technical education.
You mentioned, Dr. Mittal, about the medical. So medical is also under AICT, or it is under the NMS? Earlier it was MCI.
Yeah, it is under MCI, NMS. Yeah. It is not under AICT. Even architecture is not under AICT. AICT is mainly governed about the engineering and some management portion. Management is also not completely governed by AICT. So AICT is mainly governing the engineering and some part of management. Yeah, earlier it was taking care of the architecture.
Management is also a technical education.
Yes, management is also a technical field, because when you are managing, you have to be really see all the aspects of the life. So management is not only just giving instructions or getting the job done. Getting the job done in a way that it can be done in more efficiently and for better environmental development.
Now, how is technical education important for the country?
Yeah, in my view, because technical education is basically, it is not just the education, it is mainly based on the technical development. Because any country, any part of the world, for the development basically need technical development. For any development is basically related to technical theme. So technical education is mainly training the people for making them useful for the industry, making them useful for overall development of the system, making them useful for the society. So that's why technical education is very, very important for development of any nation.
Now, what is the scope of technical education, especially if we take in the context of our country, India? What is the scope of technical education in India?
Yeah, in technical education in India, basically, as we are all aware, India is a developing country. Financially, we are still not completely self-sufficient. Of course, we are depending on some developed countries in certain aspects. So that is why technical education also being not as fast development process as in the developed country. But at the same time, during the last about 25 years or so, our technical education in India has been taken a sharp rise, and a lot of development has taken place during last 25 years. A lot of new technical institutions have started. If you see about 30 years back, technical institutions were only about 10% of what it is today, even not even 10%. But these technical institutions started mainly in 90s and early part of this century. So a lot of development took place after that.
Yes. But IITs were established in a quite early stage.
Yeah, IITs were there. There were only five IITs earlier. So these 5 IITs plus BHU, like 6 IITs were there, but these 6 were not sufficient to govern the whole of the country in the technical education. So that's why the government of India thought later on, and it has increased the number of IITs now. Now the number of IITs have increased to 34, and like NITs, etc., have been developed during last 25 years or so. So a lot of new development has taken place in technical education. IITs, of course, were developed in 50s and 60s, early 60s, but there were only five IITs and plus BHU. So six IITs were there. So they were, as I've just said, they were not sufficient to take care of whole of the nation and whole of the development in all the environment. Yes.
What are the challenges in this technical education in India?
Yeah, as I have just said, one of the main thing is finance. In the technical education, lot of equipments are required for development, for the research work. Lot of latest type of equipments for the precise equipments are required. So money is the requirement. So that is one of the main challenges. And of course, we are not, as I have said in beginning, we are not at par with the developed countries still in many developments. So we have to import most of the equipment, most of the precise equipment and advanced equipment we have to import. So still we are not, abhi jo present government, Modi ji's policy, make in India, I think we are doing something about that. But of course, it will take some time to develop up to some extent, up to the level of the global area. But we are going in the right direction. But still, with the reference to, in comparison to the developed countries, we are still behind. I won't say behind, very much behind, but we are, of course, falling behind. So, of course, we are trying to cover up. We are trying to cover up this, but it will take some more time. So, we are working in the right direction.
Okay. We are working in right direction, as you said, and technical education in India, as earlier you have said, is there for last almost 60 years now. So do you think, or according to you, those students who have become engineer, they are not at par with the engineers of developed country because we don't have those equipments. They were not trained on those equipments, which are very costly. According to you, there is no money for our IITs or all the engineering college. Do you agree with this?
To some extent, I agree. I not exactly, because our Indian students, especially, they are much better in analytical things. In analytical things, they are much better, and that's why in the software side of the computer, you will find Indian students even in most of the places, that even USA, UK, etc. At many developed countries, you will find in the software industry, many Indian people are already involved. They have already gone there. But still, lot has to be done. As you have rightly said, in the very precise and advanced equipment, where we don't have easily available, or you can some of the institutions. Some of the good institutions have advanced equipment and all the facilities, but many institutions still don't have such a. So especially one of the challenge is that, of course, a lot of privatization has been done in the technical education. Many private institutions have come up, and as all of us know, private institutions, basically their basic aim is to get some benefit, some financial earnings. So whereas education is such field that you have to invest, you have to invest. So that is one of the parameter where many of our engineers they are not up to the mark. Many of our private institutions, although one of the best institution today was developed by a private company, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, was developed by Tatas. So, but it has become a best institution today. But still, I will say that many of the private institutions are still far behind in the overall development of technical education. Many government institutions, NITs, etc., have done a lot of work. They are doing a lot of research, a lot of understandings, but still, as I have said, in the precise and advanced level of education, they are still not up to the mark of the developed countries. So we are still have to do little more to be up to that mark.
Dr. Mittal, you have mentioned about the private and government. Even if government, if we see like IITs, which belongs to the government,
Yes.
and they are there for almost 60 years now. As you said, 5. Let's take about the 5. How many are there in the world? Top 10, 100 rankings, not 10, 100 rankings. India is having 1/6 population belongs to India. Okay. And we are supposed to be the fastest growing economy today. And can you rank, is any of our IITs are ranking among first 100 or even, I say 150?
I think one of the IITs is there in first within 200, not 150. I think
is it a matter of
170 or so.
Is it a matter of proud for us?
As I have said in the beginning, one of the main challenges is the finance. Because although we are saying that we are developing, our institutions are developing, but finance is one constraint, which is of course.
Can you tell me, Professor Dr. Mittal, you are on the helm of AICTE. You have seen many institutions. You might have visited them also, the technical or engineering institutions we are talking right now.
Yes.
How much money is required for an IIT level institutions? CapEx, how much capital required for a IIT institution to start with?
I think you require at least 500 crores. At least.
But Professor Mittal, we have 20,000 crores for the Central Vista, and we don't have 500 crores for our IITs, for our children, for the students.
No, IITs are developing, but still what I am saying is to go to that level of the developed countries. That is this 500 crores I am saying, just to go up to that level.
I said make it 1,000 crores, but still we have lots of money. If anybody says that India is poor country, I disagree, because we have lots of money. You can imagine in one election how many lakhs crores rupees is spent in an election. So when we are ready to spend money here and there, why, I am asking you, because you have worked in the government as a member secretary in AICTE, why no such proposals were given that first we must strengthen our IITs or engineering colleges so that they can become at par? Because what is happening today, our engineering college are not at all, as you said, 169 or 170th rank. That stands nowhere. So now, what do you say about this, Professor Mittal?
As has been said by you, India is having about 1/6 of the population of the world. That is one of the biggest disadvantages, because population, we have to feed this population, and the resources available are not as high. So these are the things where we can't have a very high fee for the students. We have to invest on the students. That's what I have said, that the private institutions, most of the private institutions are not working of the mark, because they are basically want some advantage, some money gain, which is not possible in technical education of today, because you need a lot of investment there.
Professor Mittal, I agree with you. Then, as an again, I am asking you, as an AICT member secretary, why the government is allowing private institute to come and in the engineering, if they feel that they are substandard, if they are not giving proper education, they should close it. It is like we are committing a fraud or cheating with the students, life of students, if we are giving a substandard education, a technical education to students. If you say as a responsible, because you are the former member secretary of AICT,
Yes.
and still director of a very prestigious institute, if you are saying that the private institutes are giving a substandard education, it is always better to close them. It is like this, that a doctor is giving a substandard injection or the medicine to a patient, saying that because you are paying less to me, I am giving you this much thing. Whether you survive or die, it's your fate. Yeah, what is your comment?
If you observe during last 5-6 years, AICT has also started some policy to close down institutions, and during last 6 years, many institutions have been closed. Of course, few new institutions have been added, but many institutions have been closed, because we have made some policy that for continuous 3 years, if they are not up to the mark, if are not found, they are not found up to the mark, they will be closed. So out on that policy was made in 2018. So on that policy, many institutions have been closed or have been given the notice to close. So AICT is working in that direction. AICT is already working on that direction, that the investment has to be made in the technical education to make that effective. And that's why.
But yeah, I understand. But the thing is, if you are closing today, I think in 𝐂𝐸, approximately 10 lakh students are appearing every year, out of which how many seats are there? Very few seats. Then what is going to be the fate if you will be closing more and more substandard? Although you should close, I am also in favor. But what will be the future? Why the government? One side you say that we don't have infrastructure, the money, with resources. Then why IT is opening a campus in Dubai?
That is again overall development, because Dubai and all those places where you can get a lot of money, but and at the same time, lot of education is required to be given there, which is of course available with India. So that is one of the part. The developed countries are not reaching there so fast or so easily. So India is going there.
To you, Indian standard students are, we will, because they are not paying as much as Dubai students are paying. So money is more important for the government. Although you contrarily earlier said that the money education is to be imparted without any profits. And when if the government is seeing the profit that Dubai can pay more, while so much waiting list is there in 𝐂𝐸, it is very hard breaking things.
Yeah, it is just basically that thing, because to open in India, you require finance. So they have to get the finance from, if it is possible to get some finance from the Dubai institution, opening an institution in Dubai, why not to get finance from there? So we are getting finances from there. That is also one of the parameter, that finance has to be, we have to get some finance from somewhere. So if
do you agree with the generally people say that all our technical institutes are creating employees, they are not creating entrepreneurs? Do you agree with this?
Yes, to some extent, but during last 5 years, AICT as well as many other organizations in India have made it a policy that we should create more job creators than job seekers. So we should create more entrepreneurs, etc. So we are working in that direction. Skill development, working a lot on skill development. India government is working a lot on skill development also. So we are working in that direction for last 5 years or so, but still we need a lot of efforts in that direction. A lot of efforts are still required for that.
Now you said about skill India or skill India movement which is going on. So why do we require technical education when we can go for a skill India thing that anyone can be trained for make a skilled person. The training can be done for the skill training. Why we require higher education, especially engineering from IIT? So why we require technical education in India?
Yeah, that's why, because they are just एक दूसरे का पूरक है, मतलब they are just complementary to each other, because skill, when skill is there, because a lot of technical staff can be developed, staff will be there, or industrial staff will be there, and at the same time higher education is required for the analytical and overall development of management systems. So overall development of the systems, analytical knowledge is required, higher education or higher technical education is required. So that's why they are both complementary. Skill development as well as higher education, technical education, both are, in my view, they are complementing each other. Both are required, because higher education without the skilled personals will not be possible, because in the higher education also you need require laboratory training, etc. So laboratory training has to be done by the skilled staff. So they may not be as aware of the analytical things, but they know how to handle the machines, how to give knowledge to the students about the machines, etc., for maintenance of the machine, etc. So skilled person and analytical persons both are required. That's why higher education and skill education both are complementary to each other.
Okay. Now, do you agree that the research in our technical institutions are lacking behind? Our research, if you will see, is very, very less in comparison to the other countries. And whatsoever research we are giving, even their percentage is very less. And even out of that, how many research has been quoted or been published in the reputed journals, as well as our research many times were called sham because the students were using the cut, copy, paste technique. Do you agree with this?
To some extent, not exactly, but because our research level is also increasing. I won't say that it has reached up to the level of the developed countries, but during last 10, 15 years, it has increased, and our journals, our research publications are being now quoted or referred by many people in developed countries also. So I won't say that we are much behind in research. We are somewhat behind in research, but we are developing. We are developing in that pace also. So it may take some more time because of the higher, as I have said earlier, very, very good institutions like IITs, etc. They are very limited. Only few IITs were there. Now 34 IITs are there. So overall research criteria, overall research management systems, overall professors, etc. in IITs, they are doing more work. So research is also improving during last 10 years or so.
लेकिन प्रोफेसर मित्तल कितने नोबेल प्राइज मिले हमें आज तक?
देखिए, नोबेल प्राइज जहां तक बात है, एक तो वही बात, सेम थिंग विल कम दैट आवर फाइनेंस इज नॉट अवेलेबल टू अस फॉर
नोबेल प्राइज के लिए फाइनेंस नहीं चाहिए. नोबेल प्राइज के लिए आपका विजनरी आइडिया होना चाहिए और उस पर रिसर्च होनी चाहिए, क्रिएटिविटी होनी और रिसर्च होनी चाहिए, जेन्युइन रिसर्च होनी चाहिए. वो उसके लिए पैसा नहीं चाहिए, थिंकिंग चाहिए. पहले
you require money for that also, because you require some any creativity comes when you have some basic equipments available, basic things available. Then because हम जैसा कि हम जानते हैं, we are basically a agriculture oriented country, and our mental balance is about that level only, that we are more towards the rural level. So creativity of the technical development, technical things comes when the certain resources are available in the labs, certain things are available in the labs. So for Nobel Prize, of course, there are few Nobel Prize winners had been from India. They may not be
No,
Indians at the time of getting Nobel Prize.
Professor Mittal, we are claiming them that they are Indians. They are not no more Indians. Earlier they were. They have taken the citizenship there. So why they will be called as an Indian? If they were Indians, they would have not taken the citizenship of that country. Anyway, thank you.
That is the main thing, because I have said to you in beginning that the finance, they have taken the citizenship of those countries because of the finance was available for their research. In India, it was not available. So that is one of the biggest parameter, that finance availability is required for overall development of technical education.
Okay. Now I am coming to the next segment of our questions. That is, first question is, what is the difference of different types of technical institutions like polytechnics? We have engineering colleges, we have IITs, as you say, NITKs, etc., etc. Can you just highlight all the differences? And please.
Yeah, so some of the things I think we have already discussed about that. So I'll just emphasize a little more. IITs are as such basically have been developed by the government, and they have been given local IIT, whereas NITs and government engineering colleges, etc., they are getting grants, but at the same time, their grants is not up to that level what IITs, etc., is having. That's why they are not up to that level in research, but producing good engineers, they are doing good work. So for BTech and MTech, for engineer graduation and post-graduation level studies, these institutions are doing good work. But research work, they are still not at the level of IITs. They are doing some work, but they are developing. Then coming to the private institutions, as I have said in the beginning, few private institutions are very good. Few private institutions are very good.
My question is Polytechnic, Engineering College and IITs, not the private institutions.
So coming to Polytechnic now, Polytechnic is just the basic understanding of the engineering things and practical orientation of engineering. So that is the overall of the operating of the machine, not the development or analytical part, but operating of the machine and overall system management. So Polytechnic diploma holder person will be working mainly for the overall development of the overall maintenance of the machine, overall development of the system, development of the overall industrial system. Whereas an engineering college, analytical things will also come into, and so engineering orientation is there. So apart from the how the machine will be operated, how the machine can be built, how this can be analyzed, if there is any fault, how it can be corrected, all those parameters will be carried out in the engineering colleges. Whereas IITs, as I have said, are more of research orientation.
Okay.
So these are the basic difference between the three types.
Yes. So what is the difference now? Again, I am asking about the private institutions and government institutions. You mentioned one thing, that private institutions are there for milking the students, or I am using the word milking because of the rural, you have mentioned agriculture thing, or minting money or earning money. But and you said there is no, they are not investing that much, and money is required for getting Nobel Prize. But we have lots of billionaires. We have the Asia's richest persons in India, and they have engineering college there. Why they have not invested money in engineering college? I will give you the name also, Adani Institute of Infrastructure Engineering, Ahmedabad. So why that institute is facing financial crunch? Why there is no Nobel Prize has come there? Now my question, why their standard is more better than the IITs if the money is only the criteria? Professor Mittal, please.
Yes, as I have said you in the beginning, that private institutions, there are good private institutions also there, but there are very few. Most of the private institutions basic aim is to earn money. And from education, it is, if you earn money, then it is difficult to give good quality of education, because you will not get good quality of equipments, you will not get good quality of faculty, because if you get good quality of faculty, you have to pay. So most of the private institutions are paying very less, very much lesser than what AICTE approved pay scales, etc. That many private institutions are like that. So that is the main thing. As I have said in the beginning, some of the private institutions are doing very, very well. Like I have said, IISc, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, was started by Tatas. So it is also a private institution. Now, of course, it has been taken over by the government, but it has been developed by Tatas, and it has got its own reputation. So there are many private institutions of that level still. But
that level is not at par with the global level. Pilani, we have the Birla's Institute of Engineering. It is not at par with the any government, any global Georgia Tech or any institute of MIT, etc. Why? What is the reason behind it?
That's why, because of the overall resources in India are not that there. Because you have to import the things. You have to still many
okay,
resources.
Professor Mittal, my research says that abroad, all these top universities, whether it's a Stanford or whatsoever, they never take money from the government. They take the sponsorships from the big corporates, and there the research work takes place. And that's why they are getting the proper research, which was funded by the big corporates. In India, we have lots of big corporates. Indian corporates are big. Multinationals are also now present in India. Why the engineering colleges, technical colleges are not taking the help of those corporates, take them, sponsor the projects for the research funds, and get the proper research, so that Indian name will be also there in the global scenario. What do you say about this, Professor Mittal?
That culture is required to be developed. Because still many of the very good corporates in India, they are, in my view, they are not very keen about investing in the education field. That culture is required to be developed. So we want there, because as you have rightly said, Adani's institute, why it has not come to that level? Because it has not invested so much in the institute. What he is capable of investing quite a lot, but his institution, he has not invested very highly. I know very many professors from that institute. They are not up to that level, because they are not being paid up to the level of IITs, etc. They are not being. So although he's a big corporate, but he's not investing that much in education.
Professor Mittal, there is no control on the educators' payout or the salaries of the professors or the teachers in the engineering institute, or is there any restriction or any control of the government?
Yeah, as per the government directives, the salary as per the pay commission report, etc., are very good. I would say that the salaries of professors, associate professors, etc., they are at par with the industrial people. But most of the institutions, especially most of the private institutions are, even many government institutions are not paying at that level. So that is one of the biggest disadvantage in India. Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Professor.
Yeah. So that is many institutions are paying very good salary, but private institutions, as I have said to you earlier, also they are not paying good salary to the faculty. There are, even in many government institutions, I have seen that they are not, they are paying only the ad hoc level of salary, and they are not paying full salary to their professors, etc. So that is one of the biggest disadvantage in education. Government has given their recommendations very good, but implementation of those recommendations is not up to that mark.
But this is not enforceable.
It is enforceable, but it is still, I would say that AICT is trying, but not successful completely.
So we can say that AICT doesn't have the teeth, or they are spineless body.
I would say for finances, the AICT can't like press all the institutions. They have made the regulations that you have to pay.
Yeah, so that is a implementation only. For that, AICT doesn't require finance. They only require to enforce it. If suppose some institution is not enforcing the pay scale which has been prescribed by AICT, then AICT can give a notice and close the institute. And and government is having capabilities to close any institution anytime. What do you say about this?
Those kind of things have to be developed. AICT is having of course, AICT is giving notices to many institutions for doing wrong things. But
Professor Mittal, don't take it otherwise.
Something more has to be done in that direction.
Professor Mittal, don't take it otherwise. But general perception in the public is a suitcase culture in AICT. Do you agree this?
It was there, I would say. But for last 10 years at least, it is not there. The present chairman of AICT is a very hardworking and very simple person, Professor Sahas Budde. And in his tenure during last 7 years, he has been there for last 7 years. So lot of good work has happened. AICT has, for technical education, has grown quite a lot. And we have closed institutions. We have done many good things, but still, lot of things has to be done. Lot of things are still required, like closing of the institutions, or those things like not paying the proper salary. It is because they get sanction from the government, from other bodies. If AICT is giving them notice, they get from state government, they give pressure.
That is what I am saying, Professor Mittal, that AICT has to get the power, like we have a election commission, right. We have all those powers so that they can enforce. After all, you are a central body, this AICT comes under the central government. Body says that we don't have that much enforceable power, and especially when you are playing with the future of our youth or young generation, it is very important that we should either not give any education to them. If we are giving education, it should be correct education of the same standard as a global. So now my next question is, what is the level of technical education in India with respect to the global development?
Yeah, as we have discussed quite in our discussion earlier also, with reference to the global systems, one of the main parameter is the finance. So that's why our technical education in India, although it has been growing for last 25 years or so, but still not up to that mark as in the global level. So we are working. Indian students are working quite a lot. There are many Indian students in the foreign countries, etc. They are doing quite a lot good research. But still, mainly because of that parameter, finance level is not up to that mark. We require a lot more.
Okay. Now, we know that for last 2 years almost now, because 2020, July 30th, if you still remember, the National Education Policy 2020 was released by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. And this, again, it was done in the last year, that is 2021, when it was supposed to be implemented. Do you think this National Education Policy will impact or will do the changes as you are saying about the research, about the payment of to the educator, etc., etc.? In this new education or National Education Policy, those aspects have been taken care of or not?
Yeah, in the new education policy, don't care. But implementation of national education policy completely to the private organizations, private institutions, even in government institutions, it will find some time. It will require to take some time to implement it completely. So because in this lot of freedom has been given to the students to choose their subject. Like as earlier, it was like as I am an electrical engineer, I had to take the subjects only what has been proposed for electrical engineering curriculum at that time. But now in the new policy, it has been given that even an electrical engineering students can take some courses from the sports, some courses from his whatever his own willingness, his own interest. Even like I have been forced into electrical engineering, but my main interest was somewhere to create more sports, or my interest was in football. So I can take some courses in football also during my electrical engineering. So like that, there are a lot of scope for getting the overall development of personality. Personality development parameters.
So according to you, Professor Mittal, it will take some time for the implementation of national education policy.
Yes.
And how much time do you think? Sorry?
I think in another 5 years, it should be completely implemented.
So
Professor
Mittal, why not we shut all the engineering institutions for 5 years? Let the national education policy to be implemented 100%. It is like this, that if you are cooking rice and it's a half-cooked rice, and you say it will take time, now we are serving you the half-cooked rice, you eat it. Do you think this is a correct way to give a half-baked, half-cooked rice or the education to the students? After all, this is the future of students. We are playing with the life of the students if we are not imparting them the correct technical knowledge, which according to you will be done after 5 years when the National Education Policy 2020 will be fully implemented. What do you say about this, Professor?
Yeah, I would say like closing is not the solution, because even the half-cooked rice may be corrected for utilization. But at the same time, if you close it, there is no food available. When no food available, then of course it will be very difficult. So something has to be available at the same. So closing is not a solution, but correcting. And if you close it now, it may take more than 5 years, because then of course those institutions will not bother much think about it. So going in the right direction in the time with reference to time will be the thing. I would say that it should be implemented as early as possible. It should be implemented within a year, but practically it will take about 5 years to implement it completely. So because a lot of things are required to be done, a lot of mentality has to be changed. There are many old level professors who don't want to modify themselves, and it is sometimes very difficult to convince them that these things are required for overall development of the system overall. So those parameters have to be considered while we consider the practicability.
Okay, you have said about that we should our old professors are they existing, so we cannot do the implementation. Yes. And we have to eat half-cooked rice, which may have a problem for our stomach. But don't worry, once you can go to the doctor, so doctor will treat you. So you are ready to give the half. We have not a proper education, substandard education to students, and till our National Education Policy 2020 implemented according to you 5 years. Otherwise, all other my panelist earlier has told that is not possible to implement, because the education budget